All right, welcome back, guys. Sean here with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Yeah, your one-stop shop for Pocket Change Market Report. Yeah, the midweek edition, June 11, 2025, is hitting the airwaves as of right now. So we're going to take a look at some of the best, most relevant, I guess, mint errors, dive varieties that are being found out there today. Whether you're an avid roll hunter, change searcher, or maybe you like to partake in a local coin show or shop to find some of these. Those are a few various ways where you could identify and find some of these and take advantage of, yet again, another burgeoning part of numismatics. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. It's sure going to be a lot of fun. Couple ground rules. Number one, we don't talk about graded coins. The items that we're going to be talking about here today sell for themselves. It's really easy to sell ungraded, and as a matter of fact, grading doesn't necessarily add the extra value to these particular coins in question. Keep that money in your pocket. And then number two, the images you're going to see here today are all 100% original to these sellers' listings. You're going to get basically the best and the worst that eBay has to offer in terms of picture quality. You might even get a little photography lesson as a result. All right. So before we go ahead and jump in, I want to thank channel sponsor Whatnot, who's been supporting me for over 2 years now in making all my dreams come true of becoming a seller of said collectibles. Coins, paper money, precious metals, you name it. We've sold it all on Whatnot, and it's a great platform, and it's a great place to go if you're looking to scratch that itch. Maybe there's some silver you want to get because we've seen it run up to over $37 an ounce. Maybe there's a collectible coin that has been eluding you for quite a while. You can find them all on this platform. Whatnot is the biggest, most interactive live social media auction platform going today. Join today. We have a big summer promotion happening for the month of June and July. There's the QR code right on screen. Scan it today, and you will save $15 off your first purchase. $15 off that 1 ounce silver round or bar sounds pretty good. Pretty good deal right there. Nice savings. And not to mention just a world of other different things that the sellers on the platform have in store for you. If you don't want to use the QR code, we also have the links down below in the description box and also pinned to the comment section of this video. Start today. It's a lot of fun. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into what we have here. First one up is the 1964 Washington quarter. Yes, these are 90% silver. They are indeed the last final date of silver in our regular circulating coinage. Now, this particular coin, a silver aside, is here for a completely different reason. And that this one is what they have, the Type B reverse. And if you look at my little mouse pointer, say, go ahead and follow it. Oh, there it is. So we're going to pay attention here to the letter A in dollar. And you're going to see that this particular leaf is actually attached to the top of the A. That's the Type B reverse. I know, it sounds silly, and that's as easy as that. Actually, they used a proof reverse die for a number of these dates of Washington quarters, where that particular leaf is touching the A of dollar. They're not all like that. As a matter of fact, the strike is quite weak on all of the Type A coins. It may not necessarily be weak or more just, a primary design flaw for a lot of these particular quarters. 64 is a little bit tougher date to find with the Type B reverse. There's a number of them. 56 is undoubtedly the most toughest, and I've owned a few of those myself. This particular coin sold on eBay for $20.50 off of 21 total bids. All right, pretty good sale there, considering this person probably made about 3x their money just by simply identifying that leaf touching the A in dollar. Is really all that it takes. The next one that we have here, it's a shame that the photos aren't more high quality, because I would love to see crisp images of this one. Now, this is not the first time or the last time probably, that I've seen this particular large cud die break on this Buffalo nickel. It's a 1924D, so it's right away, it is quite a tough date, even before we talk about anything else. So you're going to see right on the reverse there, just a large blobulous anomaly right there at the 3 o'clock position on the reverse. A piece of the die, or multiple pieces thereof, had fallen out all due to wear and tear. So when it goes to strike up coins, all of the metal flow will enter that cavity, that empty cavity on the die. Kind of think of it as the path of least resistance. And you're going to get one of these things. They're quite marvelous, very dramatic looking. Some people will get thrown off into thinking that it might be just applied solder or something like that. This particular cud right here, I've seen a few times, that I am confident in knowing that this one is not some, aftermarket job. So this one right here ended up selling for $58.50. That seems to be a little bit on the low side. However, condition of the coin, could kind of lead to a little red herring here. The obverse looks like it has some environmental stuff happening to it, a little bit of corrosion, not really knowing a whole lot more than that. And the pictures were not very good. This one, probably the value suppressed by a few of those factors. Next one that we have here, this one needs no introduction, 1922. They only made this coin at one mint, and that's the Denver Mint. So if you come across this coin without an actual physical mint mark on it, you're on to something. This is what they call the 1922 plain no mint mark variety. And this one is paired up to 4 different reverses. And 2 of them are what they call the strong reverse. All right, so that's the one that's most desirable. People want the ones with the nice strong reverse on there, like this one here. And this is actually a halfway decent example. Now, it's not one that's going to blow you away at first impressions in terms of grade, but where it lacks in the grade department, the overall genuine nature of this coin will more than make up for it, because at the end of the day, it is quite pricey. For example, this one here sold for $2,249.99. It is not a coin for the faint at heart. If you're a completionist like I am, your path is going to cross a 1922 plain no mint mark, because most albums, I would say, if you're an album collector, a 22 plain no mint mark is going to be a slot in that album. Don't be afraid to fill that particular hole with this bad boy. Next one that we have here, boy, this thing right here, one of my favorites of the day. It's not the highest price item, but in terms of visual aesthetics, this 1935 Lincoln Wheat set has it all. They call this an improper alloy mix, also known as a woody. And you can tell that this particular one has just the right amount of graining to give it a really, really nice appearance to it. The coin is actually in really nice high grade as well. I'm going to venture to guess high-end AU, like an AU58, maybe a low-end mid-state brown on this one. Improper alloy mixes, as its name implies, is that the little bit of tin or zinc that they added to the copper to make up this composition didn't quite mix well together. So that's why you have these incomplete, mixing striations on the coin. That was even there even before the coin was ever struck. And these are becoming more popular. So 35 is not a rare date at all. I've actually found quite a few of these with some sort of wood graining on them. This sold for $14.46 with a pair of bids. So it sure beats the alternative where 5 years ago, these things, you couldn't even get rid of these for $1 or $2. So they have certainly come up. People recognize the beauty and the uniqueness of each and every single coin with this wood grain pattern. No two are going to be alike. We do talk about paper money here too. One of my favorite subjects. And we have this 1934A $20 bill. All right, it's a nice older note. It's got some staining, so it's been around the block. It's not a perfect example, And this particular listing will help provide a little bit of insight for you guys in knowing that, even notes that look like this, that aren't really nothing too crazy, will still have a fair amount of collectability and value. All right, so on this one, you can't really see anything strange looking at just the front of the note. And that's why I'm telling you, always look at the both sides of the note. This particular one, when you flip it over, there you go. The misalignment of the reverse print when it's paired up to the front is way off. That's what they call misaligned registration. Registration is where the front and back of the sheet match up. So that way when it's cut, in theory, they're both sides are going to be pretty well centered, and we're just not seeing this here on the reverse. So this one here is selling for $153.50. These are always very valuable wherever you see some misalignment. Usually we see that on the overprint, like the serial numbers and the district seals. Those particular notes are wildly popular and very collectible, but at the same time, there's quite a few of them out there supply-wise to help fulfill demand. Next one that we have here, this is a 1980p Washington quarter, slightly off-center, nothing too crazy. Again, if you were looking through a roll of Washington quarters, you could actually find this. I know I have, and it won't be the first time, won't be the last time, and when it comes to hunting for varieties and errors, you have to keep in mind it's all in the frequency. If you say you hadn't found anything and then you test me on it saying, oh, that would never exist and change, that thing is just way too crazy and wild to stay out there, man, you better think again. Because if you're not hunting for these and you're not putting in the effort, you're not hunting through $500 or $1,000 face value in quarters every week, you will never find these, And I will be the first to tell you, you will never find these if you don't put in the work to look through these in quantity, because quantity equals results. When you have those results, they show. The hard work also going to show up as well. So this particular one, again, quite minor on the off-center strike department. Managed $19 on eBay here in the last day or two. In comparison, this 1990D Roosevelt dime is off-center by about 10-15%. And dimes have been on the come-up. Some people point to the upcoming redesign of this coin for 2026 to help commemorate the semi-quincentennial of our country. Yeah, I could see that kind of playing along here, and dimes have been suppressed in today's market anyways, that it was just going to be a matter of time before people begin to see how reasonably priced these coins are. And now they're on the come up, and more people are jumping onto this bandwagon. So this one here ended up selling for $38.50. Kind of crazy when you're comparing this to the Washington quarter we just looked at, which, some would say, well, that quarter should be worth more because it's a higher, denomination. Yeah, but there's a lot more off-center struck Washington quarters during the 80s. So that argument isn't there. Whereas Roosevelt dimes, you don't see as many errors because it's a lot smaller, coin. You would think that striking Roosevelt dimes, you could strike twice the amount in the same amount of time that it would take to strike, a similar level of Washington quarters. And again, kind of wild and crazy just how much more Roosevelt dime errors are compared to Washington quarters. This one's neat, and someone dropped the friggin' ball on this thing. 1988 Lincoln Memorial Cent. Check out that long bisecting die crack. All right, it starts at the first T and states on the reverse, and you could just see it go all the way through that coin there. Now that's on the die; it's not on the coin. So obviously, that reverse die had a crack. It was pretty much terminal at that point. And it was only going to be a matter of time before a mint employee, does an inspection. They see that, and then they pull that die out of service. As a matter of fact, when they unseat it out of the mint press, the thing probably split in half right in their hand. So, yeah, I mean, this is something that we don't see nearly as much, but I wanted to draw your attention to this because they're actually worth a lot more than what this one sold for, which, by the way, get this, $10 is what this one sold for. But all the other ones that I have personally witnessed over the last 12 months that have sold of varying dates have traditionally gone for between $50 and $100. So this one here, $10, buy it now, got scooped up about as quick as you could possibly ever imagine. And, there was a lot of money left on the table for this. Another neat one here, 1920 Buffalo Nickel with another cud die break. You guess where it's at? When they become this low grade, it could kind of trick you. If you look on the reverse at the very bottom of the coin, where normally it would say 5 cents, and that's kind of like the flat mound area of where the buffalo is sitting on. That's a huge, giant cud. Apparently, it was a very weak spot on the dies, and this is not the first time that we've seen this, actually. We've seen it on 1935. It's another great date for the cud right above the word 5 cents, or words 5 cents. So, yeah, I mean, pretty crazy. This one's selling for $155.50. But, in the perfect world, I'm trying to figure out how that other cud we talked about earlier, the 24D, which is a much scarce date with a much stronger grade to it, in spite of the fact that maybe there might be some corrosion on there, ended up selling for a third of what this one did. I'm blown away by that discrepancy. 57D Lincoln Wheat Cent. Pretty cool one. This is a great looking Repunched mint mark variety. This is actually RPM number 4 in the die files, either by Wexler or Dr. Wiles on Variety Vista. The secondary Denver mint mark was punched south of the primary. Now, you guys know, prior to 1990, mint employees were still hand tapping the mint marks into the working dies. The working dies did all the jobs, all the work of producing the coins. They were the workhorses of the process. And part of that was making sure that the mint marks were on there. And, if they kind of missed their placement on that mint mark, they were allowed to reset and retap. Okay, and that leads to some pretty amazing results, like this one you see here. So this particular coin sold for $20.90, which is very good considering that RPMs are flying left and right. They have a vastly great number of them out there. They're very searchable. They're a lot of fun to look at. They occur on a lot of dates, and I would highly encourage you guys to add this one to your list. So if you're just seeing this for the first time, crazy as it is, that, my friends, is a Georgia statehood quarter that was struck like 85% off center. Never would I ever imagine to see a statehood quarter that was struck this far off center. I've probably seen maybe one or two other examples, but you do know that this one is the Georgia based off of the reverse design. Quite cool. And, any sort of like drastic mint error on any of the statehood quarters are very collectible and very highly sought after. This one right here sold for $104.51. I mean, again, case in point that the collectability of any coin, it doesn't matter how old or how new they are, they have no set limit. They sell for whatever the market commands. Someone's willing to pay $500 for the coin, let them pay $500. That sets the table on the market for that coin. This one right here, you would have to be a fly on the wall because most people would forget this one. It's not a cherry picker's guide, but it should be. 1941 Lincoln Wheat Cent. Doubled die obverse number 3 is the designation on this. I tell you what, doubleddie.com, that's Dr. Wexler's website, I think they labeled this one as a best of, which I believe is also a Variety Plus listing through NGC. So you could, in theory, send this off to a grading company, NGC, and they'll do their VP designation number on there. So this one right here is a really nice looking double to die. Check out some of the close-ups here. Coming very, very similarly close to the FS 102 in terms of strength and spread. Pretty nice doubling on Liberty and on D'Amato in God We Trust. And because of that, it's also a nice shape too. It's a nice red-brown. This one sold for $129. And again, this is a commonly overlooked variety, I would imagine. I'm pretty sure I've overlooked this one. And, as long as it stays off the radar of the Cherry Picker's Guide books, that's where these things can get lost for years, because a lot of people pay a lot of credence to the Cherry Picker's Guide variety listings that they tend to forget that there are others that exist that are what we call on the more minor side. This is one of them here. One of my favorites, I've found a few of these over the years, 1943 D over D Repunched mark, Steely. My goodness gracious, this is a coin that if you were able to find one in like perfect condition without any oxidation or whitening or rust or anything like that, this thing could get really pricey right away. This one right here is okay. It does have a little oxidation starting to happen on the reverse there. It's designated as FS 501, and then there's your close-up there. The secondary Denver mid-mark was punched south and west of the primary. This is the big kahuna. I would say probably the biggest singular variety of the entire, 3 mint-mark 1943 set. You could also make the argument the 1943 FS 101 is another good one. The 43S. FS 101, that's the infamous 43 over 2 overdate that they call it. This one here, $165.80 was your final result on that one. Something to keep an eye out here, 2020 Philly Lincoln Shield set. Couple little tiny strike throughs, one on the obverse right in front of Lincoln's mouth and right above the date. So that was probably a strike through of grease, some sort of like debris bits. And you could also see it on the reverse. You see where T of cent is, and there's like a little line of strike through. That's another one there. So this is a double-sided strike through event. $17.95 was the sale on that one there. It's kind of really hard to pinpoint what is actually wrong with this dollar bill. I don't know. I'm just not seeing it. Anyways, it's a 1974 $1 bill, and you guess it. Why is the overprint upside down? It's because the sheet was upside down before this was printed. So they call it an inverted overprint. I've seen a few of these. It's probably one of the more rarer paper money errors to find out there. And if you were looking, you were going to be looking through bank straps anyways. Just casually looking through circulated dollar bills isn't going to do it that much for this particular error because it's so dramatic and it's out there. But what's out there? The price on this thing. This one looks like it was discovered very early on out of a bank strap, selling for $499.95. So a nickel shy of 5 C notes on that. I know, kind of crazy that these things could have been found back in the day. $500 back in the 1970s is actually a lot of money. It's what's the conversion to today's money? Like $5,000? Isn't it like 10x or more? I don't know. But $500 back in say 1976 or 75, man, that's a lot of money. And let's not forget this one exists out there for the taking. Because 1965 Washington quarters, nobody ever pays attention to. They're not silver, but there is one pretty big variety. The FS 101 double to die obverse is a chaser for this date. One look at Liberty. You see the doubled and separated E in Liberty, and then the doubled serifs or the notched serifs of the T and Y in Liberty also. Check out In God We Trust. Nice doubling, especially on the S and T in Trust. Pretty easy to see. $99.50. This one is in the Cherry Picker's Guide, and that's why it has a FS listed number. Boy, man, this thing's cool. 1996, non-colorized $20 bill. Look at that fold-over error there. So it folded twice. It's got the bigger corner fold of that subject sheet, and then a little smaller dog-eared kind of fold in there. So, yeah, wow. This thing is crazy. So when you unfold it, there's going to be a kind of a omission of print in that area that this fold over was at. And there's a reverse. It was in good shape. Couldn't really tell you if it circulated any. It doesn't look like it, but at the same time, if I stare hard enough, I could see a centerfold and a little bit of other soiling. This one sold for $256 with 19 bids. We also had this $1985 bill where there's no overprint whatsoever. No seals, no serial number, but instead they printed it on the back, those goofballs. Yeah, I've seen this a few times. Another very highly desired error type. And it sold for $255 with 43 bids this time around. So, yeah, a couple back-to-back really awesome sales. I think they were owned by the same person to boot. And check your silver, too. You might find one of these. This is just a run-of-the-mill, plain, high-minted 1922 Philly piece dollar with a rim clip right there by the word In God We Trust. And then you also have a nice flattened Blakesley effect is what they call it. The flattened edge opposite to the side where the clip is. So a coin that traditionally, because it's so common, and it's like a mid-state 61 or 2, and ends up being just a $30 to $32 coin if you were, just going to a coin shop to find one of these. But with the clip, it adds some extra value. This one sold for $54.50, adding about a $20 bill worth of value to it, which, again, that's why we play this game, is to look for things like this that we could sell pretty quickly, or add to your collection, because your collection can be about as budget as you want it to be. This is another great one to add to that. Yeah, real quick, this is a full $25 bank box of 2023 Philly Lincoln Shield cents. The chase for the extra V continues, and while those coins have kind of cooled down, they still are secondary market kind of success stories, and you could still sell them for about $20 to $25 in high grades. This particular bank box of $25 sold for $209, 8 times your market or the face value on this one. So again, sealed bag boxes are like long-term equity holds. You have them and you can cash out of them whenever you want. The worst that could happen is you take them back to the bank, but just know that in 5 or 10 years' time, when the penny does not exist anymore, these are going to be worth a whole lot more. All right, we've seen some clips. How about a 27 Buffalo? Really nice high grade, probably XF coin here. And you have obvious Blakesley. So, pretty cool. $46.90 is a great sale on that one there. 1979D Washington quarter. The reverse is in copper, it looks like. And that's because it was missing the nickel clad layer on the reverse there. So, a much skinnier planchet. You can see the weakness in the strike on both sides, but it's most prominent where, like Liberty is, In God We Trust, the date, things like that. So it's always going to be around the edge. This one sold for $39. I felt like a dummy because, I didn't get to this one fast enough. This one, in most cases, they're about $75 to $100 raw. So there definitely some money left on the table with this piece. It graded out 4.63 grams, which is definitely a lighter weight Washington quarter of its generation. Next one that we have here is the 1984 Lincoln Memorial Cent with the large cud die break over the motto and Lincoln's head. $77 with 9 bids is what the final sale is for this one. Again, cuds are, they're the darlings of the hobby world and the secondary market. The prices are just off the charts on these. And if you are an avid silver stacker, okay, keep in mind, you got to look out for these. All right, this is a good old run-of-the-mill 10-ounce generic A-Mark silver bar, A-Mark being Apmex now, same company. What's wrong with this bar that we have to highlight it here in a PCMR? And it's real simple. This is something you could find at coin shops or at a coin show if they do PMs there. And a lot of the dealers don't pay attention to this. A-Mark, to a lot of people, is just a generic bar. They're not sexy at all. But, to a collector, and remember what we talk about here on the PCMR videos, varieties and errors. So one of those two has to exist here. And no, the reverse was not upside down, in case you were wondering. The serial stamp was stamped upside down. Yeah, the serial number is stamped upside down. And that's what gave this one a lot of value. So even before I tell you guys how much this thing sold for, just take a moment to think about, okay, well, 10 ounces, it's worth about, $360? I mean, how much more additional premium would that normally add? Well, it brought it from $360 in today's market to this one that's sold for $529.99. So you bet your bottom dollar it adds value, even some of the most generic branded pieces. But if they have a serial number on them, that could be a huge deal for you. And God forbid you find like an Engelhard that has 10 times more collectability than an A-Mark with an upside down stamp serial number. Those things are off the wall. They are off the chain on the secondary market. We've actually talked about a few of them. $529.99. Quick buy it now hit too. This thing was an insta-fill of sorts. And the final item, we talked about a pretty wild Canadian mint error last week. Here's another one here. Undated. We don't know what the date is. It's a Canadian penny struck through a capped die is what this one is. Man, some pretty crazy Canadian mint errors popping out here recently. This one actually was sold in the state of Mississippi, if you can believe that. So, yeah, pretty wild. Just because it's Canadian doesn't mean that it originates from Canada. I mean, that's where the coins are produced, but, a lot of this was taken over the border into the U.S., and some of it's saved. So there's a couple other things there that came with us. That Canadian one said, typewritered right on that little index card is what it says there. They said $100. This one ended up selling for $213.50 with 14 bids. And it did weigh out at 3.2, which I think is within tolerances for that. Because these things weigh as much as a standard U.S. copper penny, which is it falls in line with that. All right, well, that's gonna go ahead and wrap things up. That was kind of a crazy little pocket change market report. Some different stuff. That A-Mark bar, and then a couple of Buffalo Nickel cuds. Man, we're living in extraordinary times here, folks. Keep in mind, the information provided in this video is strictly for educational use only, not financial advice. Please do collect and or grade your coins responsibly. And that is it, folks. That's a wrap. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Thank you guys so much for embarking on this journey with me to find out, what we can find out there and how much can you expect to sell it for. These are all legitimate errors and varieties. And again, you don't have to grade any of these. So that's it. We're blowing the whistle here. before this thing hits 35 minutes long. You guys, happy hunting. Have a great rest of your evening, and I will see you on the next coin video. So long.